NASA has decided that Butch and Sonny will return with Crew 9 next February.
For the fifth time, Boeing Starliner disappoints us again. This setback did not shock the opinionated maverick and entrepreneur behind SpaceX Elon Musk. He was right all along about the Boeing project. Will Musk come to the rescue? How is he going to prove that SpaceX is the bigger company now in terms of technology and space exploration domination? Let's find out about these rivals in the now controversial world of spacecrafts, Boeing's golden age and the root of its decline. It's hard to believe that Boeing could make such a big mistake when you consider their history. They've been around forever, right? For years, Boeing was the company everyone trusted to build things that flew, from airplanes to spacecraft. They were the top dog in aerospace innovation. But then came the Starliner fiasco, and suddenly all that shiny metal didn't seem so impressive anymore. Before we get into the details, let's go back and remember what Boeing was during their peak. Boeing was very famous for building things that flew. They helped build the rocket that sent people to the moon, the space shuttle, and parts of the International Space Station. People trusted Boeing to lead the future of space exploration. But then Boeing started to have problems with the Starliner project. Boeing was there during NASA's peak years of achievement and innovation in space exploration history. Boeing played a role in the development of the Space Shuttle program by contributing to various aspects of shuttle construction and design. Furthermore, Boeing's involvement extended to the assembly of components for the International Space Station and in constructing essential American modules for the station's operation. Boeing's contributions also encompassed the creation of the Delta IV rocket utilized for space mission endeavors, showing a track record of achievements in space technology and exploration. In the times when it came to the future of space exploration, trust was natural to place in them without hesitation. After NASA chose Boeing to lead their Crew program, it was a decision that didn't surprise many, as it appeared logical and safe to do, because Boeing was known as the reliable choice, the one you could count on due to their track record of successful outcomes, even though there had been a shift in their performance over time. As events unfolded, it became evident that this wasn't the Boeing that once played a role in sending astronauts to the moon. Nope, this particular Boeing isn't just the same. That's when things really started to get messy and interesting. Merger with McDonnell Douglas. Looking back, the warning signs were clear. Boeing's troubles began long before Starliner's issues, stemming from their 1997 acquisition of McDonnell Douglas. While seemingly a strategic move at the time, paying $14 billion for their rival, this merger carried a hidden cost. It altered Boeing's core identity. Previously, Boeing was an engineer-driven company, prioritizing safety and quality above all else. But McDonnell Douglas brought a corporate focus on profits and shareholder value. This shift in culture gradually eroded Boeing's traditional emphasis on engineering excellence. It's been said that McDonnell Douglas effectively bought Boeing with Boeing's own money, a wry observation that highlights the profound impact this merger had on the company's values and priorities. The merger with McDonnell Douglas gradually eroded Boeing's engineering-centric culture. The company's focus shifted from creating exceptional aircraft and spacecraft to prioritizing cost-cutting measures and shareholder satisfaction. Once at the forefront, engineers were increasingly marginalized, leading to a decline in the company's internal standards. This deterioration wasn't immediately apparent, taking years to manifest visibly. However, the consequences were ultimately severe, with the Starliner debacle being the latest in a string of problems. The company that once prioritized groundbreaking innovation and safety had become compromised by a focus on the bottom line. The Starliner project, initiated in 2010 as part of NASA's Commercial Crew program, became entangled in a series of setbacks that mirrored Boeing's internal cultural shift. Tasked with developing a new spacecraft to ferry astronauts to the International Space Station, Boeing, a giant in aerospace, seemed a natural choice. With an initial $18 million investment from NASA, Boeing confidently projected a 2015 completion date. However, this ambitious timeline proved unrealistic. Deadlines were repeatedly missed and requests for extensions became routine. By 2015, instead of a finished spacecraft, Boeing had only managed to push the test flight to 2017 and then again to 2019. This raised serious concerns. What was causing these delays? Where was the Boeing renowned for its ability to deliver complex projects like the lunar rover and the space shuttle on time and to impeccable standards? It's understandable to question why NASA repeatedly granted Boeing extensions. For years, Boeing operated under advantageous cost-plus contracts, allowing them to bill the government for all expenses plus a fee, essentially profiting more the more they spent. This system lacked incentives for efficiency or timeliness. However, the Starliner contract was different. It was a fixed-price agreement, meaning Boeing was responsible for any cost overruns, directly impacting their profits. This change in financial structure exposed the flaws in Boeing's approach. Accustomed to operating with a blank check, they now faced constraints. The leadership, still influenced by the McDonnell-Douglas mindset, prioritized cost-cutting above all else. This strategy proved detrimental, especially for a complex endeavor like spacecraft development. By the time of Starliner's uncrewed test flight in December 2019, the consequences of these decisions were evident. This test, meant to showcase Boeing's continued leadership in aerospace, instead revealed the cracks in their system. Starliner's inaugural test flight was a stark failure. A fundamental error, an incorrectly set clock, threw the entire mission off course. This meant Starliner couldn't properly track its mission timeline and, instead of heading towards the International Space Station, veered off course. While Boeing eventually identified the problem, it was too late to salvage the mission. Starliner had already consumed excessive fuel, forcing an abort. Adding to the debacle, just 2 hours before re-entry, another software bug was discovered. This bug threatened to cause thruster misfires, potentially leading to a catastrophic collision between the crew capsule and the service module. Though this issue was thankfully resolved in time, it was a very public close call. Despite Starliner's safe return to Earth, the damage to Boeing's reputation was significant. This incident exposed the consequences of the company's internal struggles, highlighting the risks associated with prioritizing cost-cutting over meticulous engineering. Starliner versus SpaceX, the contrast in cultures and failures. Recall that Boeing wasn't alone in NASA's Commercial Crew Program. NASA also partnered with a newer, more agile company, SpaceX. This created a compelling rivalry between the established giant and the ambitious newcomer. And to no one's surprise now, the newcomer triumphed. In 2014, NASA divided its commercial crew contracts between Boeing and SpaceX. This initially seemed logical. Boeing, the seasoned veteran with extensive aerospace experience, versus SpaceX, the ambitious upstart with innovative ideas but limited human spaceflight experience. Hedging bets on both established expertise and fresh innovation seemed prudent. Boeing received a substantial $4.2 billion contract for Starliner, while SpaceX received a smaller $2.6 billion contract for their Crew Dragon capsule. Most assumed Boeing, with its heritage and experience, would deliver faster and more efficiently. However, SpaceX ultimately prevailed. The question is, why? Difference in culture. The divergent paths of these two companies stemmed from their contrasting operational philosophies. While Boeing clung to traditional practices, SpaceX embraced a radically different approach. A key differentiator was their respective cultures. At SpaceX, engineers remained at the helm, empowered by Elon Musk's vision. Musk, renowned for pushing boundaries, fostered a culture where innovation was not just encouraged, but expected. Crucially, SpaceX viewed failure not as a catastrophe to be avoided, but as a learning opportunity. This mentality allowed for rapid iteration, embracing mistakes and swiftly rectifying them. This agile approach contrasted sharply with Boeing's more conservative mindset, ultimately enabling SpaceX to surge ahead in the race to develop a reliable and efficient spacecraft. A fast-paced, agile culture that encourages rapid iteration, experimentation, and learning from failures. Engineers are empowered to take risks and push boundaries, fostering a highly innovative environment. Conversely, Boeing remained burdened by its corporate culture, prioritizing shareholder interests over bold engineering endeavors. This mentality persisted throughout Starliner's development. Decisions were driven by financial considerations rather than engineering imperatives, a detrimental approach in the realm of space exploration. Traditional, hierarchical corporate structure with a focus on established processes and risk aversion. This can sometimes lead to slower decision-making and a reluctance to embrace radical innovation. Astronaut Doug Hurley, having worked with both Boeing and SpaceX, experienced this contrast firsthand. He described collaborating with SpaceX engineers as a positive, receptive experience characterized by open communication and adaptability. In stark contrast, he found Boeing's engineers overconfident, dismissive of astronaut feedback, and resistant to change. This difference in approach marked the beginning of Boeing's decline in the space race, highlighting the importance of an agile and responsive engineering culture in achieving ambitious goals. By 2020, SpaceX had achieved a momentous milestone, launching its first crewed mission to the International Space Station. This marked a significant achievement for NASA and the United States, restoring the nation's ability to independently send astronauts to the ISS after years of reliance on Russian spacecraft. The Demo 2 mission, as it was known, was a resounding success. SpaceX had fulfilled its commitments, exceeding NASA's expectations. Elon Musk had definitively proven that SpaceX was more than just an ambitious startup. It was a force to be reckoned with in the aerospace industry. This achievement underscored the power of innovation, agility, and a willingness to embrace risk, attributes that allowed SpaceX to outpace its more established competitor. While SpaceX thrived, Boeing continued to grapple with Starliner's development. The 2019 test flight debacles forced a reassessment, but further problems emerged. In 2021, a launch attempt was thwarted by malfunctioning fuel valves, causing another setback and delaying the project even further. As SpaceX celebrated Crew Dragon's success, Boeing became embroiled in a blame game with Aerojet Rocketdyne, the thruster manufacturer, over the faulty valves. This public dispute between two aerospace giants did little to inspire confidence in Boeing's ability to deliver. In 2022, despite finally reaching orbit and docking with the ISS, Starliner encountered further thruster malfunctions. Though the mission was ultimately completed, the numerous issues painted a picture of a company struggling to maintain control. This starkly contrasted with SpaceX's seemingly effortless progress. While Boeing grappled with setbacks, SpaceX was already setting its sights on ambitious goals like a human mission to Mars. The gap between the two companies had become a chasm, highlighting the consequences of Boeing's cultural and operational challenges. SpaceX had become NASA's go-to partner for crewed missions, and Boeing's reputation was in tatters. This brings us to one of the biggest failures in recent space history: Starliner's much-anticipated crewed mission in June 2024. This was supposed to be Boeing's moment of redemption. For the first time, human beings were going to sit in the command seats of Starliner and take it for a test flight to the ISS. The crew, Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams, were two of NASA's most experienced astronauts, and they were ready to put Starliner through its paces. But right from the start, things went wrong. The first attempt at launching the mission had to be scrubbed because of an oxygen valve problem on the Atlas V rocket. It was a frustrating but manageable delay, and Boeing rescheduled the launch for a few days later. Despite the previous setbacks, Boeing pressed on with the Starliner program. However, a ground system computer error scrubbed their next launch attempt. Just when it seemed things couldn't get worse, they did. During the eventual launch, astronauts Wilmore and Williams faced a harrowing experience. Shortly after reaching orbit, thruster tests revealed a critical problem. The performance of the RCS thrusters began to degrade, with 5 ultimately becoming unusable. To compound the issue, a helium leak was detected in the spacecraft's gas system. Thrusters are essential for spacecraft maneuvering, particularly for docking with the ISS. With 5 thrusters down, Starliner's mission was in jeopardy. For a tense hour, the spacecraft hovered near the ISS, while engineers frantically searched for a solution. They managed to reactivate 4 of the failed thrusters, allowing Starliner to dock. but the incident underscored the ongoing challenges plaguing the program. Once again, Boeing narrowly averted disaster, but the thruster malfunctions left NASA and Boeing engineers deeply concerned. The recurring problems raised serious questions about the spacecraft's reliability and Boeing's ability to overcome its persistent engineering challenges. Why had the thrusters failed? And more importantly, could they trust them to work during the most critical part of the mission, the return to Earth? The question of whether the thrusters could be trusted for the crucial re-entry phase was paramount. Boeing and NASA conducted extensive analysis and testing to understand the root causes of the failures and implement solutions. They ultimately determined that the remaining thrusters were sufficient to ensure a safe return, but the incident highlighted the fragility of complex systems and the importance of thorough testing and redundancy. The Starliner's troubled journey underscores the challenges of human spaceflight and the need for meticulous engineering and rigorous quality control. While SpaceX has seemingly mastered these aspects, Boeing continues to grapple with them, raising questions about its future in the competitive landscape of space exploration. The uncertainty surrounding the thruster malfunctions forced NASA's hand. Prioritizing astronaut safety above all else, they made the difficult decision to bring Wilmore and Williams back to Earth, not on the troubled Starliner, but aboard SpaceX's Crew Dragon. This was a significant blow to Boeing's pride. Having designed a spacecraft that couldn't ensure the safe return of its crew was a stark admission of failure. It highlighted the stark contrast between the two companies, SpaceX with its reliable and efficient Crew Dragon, and Boeing, struggling to overcome persistent technical hurdles with Starliner. This decision solidified SpaceX's position as the leader in commercial human spaceflight, leaving Boeing to grapple with the consequences of its missteps. The final collapse and lessons for the future. Faced with the uncertainty of Starliner's thruster issues, NASA prioritized astronaut safety and made the difficult call to return Wilmore and Williams to Earth on SpaceX's Crew Dragon instead. This decision was a humbling blow to Boeing, exposing their struggles to deliver a reliable spacecraft capable of safely transporting astronauts. It further emphasized the growing disparity between the two companies. SpaceX, consistently achieving success with Crew Dragon, and Boeing, plagued by ongoing technical problems with Starliner. NASA's choice solidified SpaceX's dominance in commercial human spaceflight, leaving Boeing to confront the repercussions of its shortcomings. How did it come to this? As we've seen, Boeing's struggles ultimately stem from a deep-rooted cultural shift. The company's once unwavering commitment to engineering excellence has been eroded by a focus on cost-cutting and shareholder appeasement. This transformation, initiated decades ago with the McDonnell-Douglas merger, has now reached its full and troubling manifestation. Let's get into the specific reasons why Starliner failed just when it was needed the most. The June 2024 Starliner mission thrusters threw NASA and Boeing a curveball. While the initial assessment pointed towards heat-induced expansion of Teflon seals in the oxygen valves, the inconsistency of the issue was baffling. These thrusters had performed flawlessly in previous missions, and perplexing still, the problem proved elusive in subsequent tests aboard the ISS. This lack of definitive answers placed Boeing in a precarious position. Without a clear understanding of the root cause, guaranteeing the thruster's reliability for the critical re-entry phase was impossible. For NASA, the stakes were simply too high. Astronaut safety was paramount, and the potential consequences of thruster failure during re-entry were unthinkable. This wasn't a minor software bug, it was a life-or-death situation with no room for error. The June 2024 Starliner mission left NASA and Boeing grappling with a perplexing anomaly: malfunctioning thrusters. While the culprit appeared to be heat-related expansion of Teflon seals within the oxygen valves, the inconsistency of the issue was deeply troubling. These thrusters had operated without a hitch in prior missions, and further testing on the ISS yielded no definitive answers. This confusion placed Boeing in a problematic position. Without a clear understanding of the root cause, guaranteeing a safe return for the crew was impossible. NASA, prioritizing astronaut safety above all else, made the difficult decision to postpone the return flight indefinitely. This meant an extended stay aboard the ISS for astronauts Wilmore and Williams, far beyond their planned mission duration. Williams and Wilmore were selected to be the first astronauts to fly on Boeing's Starliner spacecraft as part of its crew flight test. Their mission was to test the spacecraft's capabilities and pave the way for future crewed missions to the ISS. However, due to the technical issues experienced during the mission, their stay on the ISS was extended significantly, and they ultimately returned to Earth on SpaceX's Crew Dragon. Despite the challenges they faced, Williams and Wilmore demonstrated professionalism and resilience throughout the mission. Their experience and expertise were invaluable in managing the unexpected situation and contributing to the ongoing efforts to improve the safety and reliability of human spaceflight. While the Starliner issues caused significant disruption and inconvenience, the astronauts were never in a life-threatening situation. The ISS and its support systems ensured their survival and well-being throughout their extended stay. Despite the mounting uncertainty, Boeing maintained a facade of confidence, publicly assuring everyone that Starliner was safe and capable of returning the crew at any moment. Behind the scenes, however, the reality was far less reassuring. Boeing engineers were scrambling to diagnose the problem, while NASA remained unconvinced of Starliner's readiness for a crewed re-entry. By August 2024, the root cause was finally identified. The Teflon seals in the thruster valves were indeed overheating and expanding, restricting oxidizer flow and triggering thruster shutdowns. While this provided some clarity, it failed to explain why this issue hadn't surfaced earlier. To this day, Boeing lacks a definitive answer. Adding to Boeing's woes, NASA, still unconvinced of Starliner's safety, opted to return the spacecraft to Earth without its crew. This decision, a stark admission of the program's struggles, not only dealt a significant blow to Boeing's reputation, but also disrupted NASA's carefully planned flight schedule. Here's why this situation was a major headache for NASA. SpaceX Crew Dragon to the rescue. Wilmore and Williams, stranded on the ISS due to Starliner's issues, needed a ride home. The only viable option was SpaceX's Crew Dragon. However, Crew Dragon wasn't designed to accommodate 2 extra passengers. To bring the stranded astronauts back, NASA had to bump 2 astronauts from the next scheduled Crew Dragon flight, resulting in a mission with 2 empty seats. This wasn't a mere inconvenience, it was a logistical nightmare. It disrupted NASA's meticulously planned flight schedule, impacting future missions and creating a ripple effect of delays and complications. All of this stemmed from Boeing's failure to deliver on its promises. And this, ultimately, is the crux of the Starliner saga. A story of unfulfilled potential, technical setbacks, and the far-reaching consequences of a company struggling to keep pace with the evolving demands of space exploration. The ensuing strain not only showcased the resilience of space agencies in managing crises, but also highlighted SpaceX's increasing indispensability to NASA's operations. The need for reliable alternatives became evident, accelerating discussions about redundancy and flexibility in spacecraft design and mission planning. This episode demonstrated the intertwined destinies of commercial space firms and national space agendas, reshaping the landscape of orbital logistics. Boeing's symptoms. Boeing's problems with the Starliner spacecraft were not just caused by technical issues, but also by their inability to adapt to the changing needs of the space industry. While other companies like SpaceX were thriving by embracing innovation, Boeing was stuck in the past. In 2024, Boeing was facing a difficult situation. The future of Starliner was uncertain, and the company's reputation had suffered. NASA was questioning whether they could rely on Boeing, and Boeing's financial situation was not good. Boeing had 2 options. They could cancel the Starliner program or continue to invest in it. Both options had risks. Canceling would stop the financial bleeding, but would also mean losing a government contract. Continuing to invest in Starliner was risky because there was no guarantee that it would succeed. Additionally, the International Space Station was scheduled to be decommissioned soon, which would limit the market for sending astronauts to low Earth orbit. The predicament pushed Boeing into a corner. forcing a re-evaluation of its strategic priorities in aerospace. The potential decommissioning of the ISS intensified the urgency to innovate or risk obsolescence. Within the industry, stakeholders and analysts alike debated the wisdom of doubling down on a faltering program versus redirecting resources to more promising technologies. This crossroads was not just a financial dilemma, but a pivotal moment in defining the future trajectory of Boeing's space ambitions. Musk on Boeing Starliner. Elon Musk has been quite vocal about his opinions on Boeing, particularly regarding their Starliner program. Musk believes Boeing has strayed from its engineering roots, prioritizing financial considerations and bureaucracy over innovation and technical excellence. He has stated that Boeing has too many MBAs and not enough engineers, implying that this shift in focus has led to the company's struggles. He perceives a sense of complacency and arrogance within Boeing, particularly in their approach to the Starliner program. He has criticized their overconfidence and their seeming reluctance to acknowledge and learn from mistakes. Musk sees Boeing as lagging behind in innovation, particularly compared to SpaceX's rapid advancements in rocket reusability and spacecraft development. He believes this lack of innovation has contributed to Starliner's repeated setbacks. Musk's criticisms often stem from a concern for astronaut safety. He believes that Boeing's approach to Starliner has compromised safety and put astronauts at unnecessary risk. He sees SpaceX as taking the lead in the space race, with Boeing falling behind due to its outdated practices and lack of innovation. Musk's opinions on Boeing reflect his frustration with what he perceives as their slow pace of innovation, bureaucratic inefficiencies, and prioritization of profits over progress. He believes that this approach is hindering the advancement of space exploration and putting astronauts at risk. It's important to note that Musk's views are often expressed through his characteristically blunt and provocative style. He was never scared to say what's on his mind. He's sometimes brutally honest. While his criticisms may be harsh, they highlight important issues within the aerospace industry and the need for companies like Boeing to adapt and innovate to remain competitive in the new era of space exploration. The Musk vision. On one side of the spectrum, we have Elon Musk and SpaceX, relentlessly pushing the boundaries of space exploration. Musk's ambitions extend far beyond Earth's orbit. Mars, the Moon, and the vast expanse of the cosmos are his targets. SpaceX's Starship, a fully reusable spacecraft designed for deep space voyages, is already generating significant buzz, and Musk's unwavering determination shows no signs of waning. Elon Musk's vision for SpaceX is nothing short of revolutionary, aiming to transform humanity into a multi-planetary species. Here are some of his key plans. Mars colonization. This is arguably Musk's most ambitious goal. He envisions building a self-sustaining city on Mars, with Starship serving as the primary vehicle for transporting people and cargo. He aims to send the first uncrewed starships to Mars in 2026, followed by crewed missions just a few years later. Lunar missions. SpaceX is also heavily involved in lunar exploration. They have been awarded contracts by NASA for cargo delivery and human landing systems for the Artemis program, which aims to return humans to the Moon. Musk sees the Moon as a stepping stone for Mars colonization, providing a testing ground for technologies and infrastructure. Point-to-point Earth travel. Musk has proposed using Starship for ultra-fast travel between any 2 points on Earth. This would involve launching passengers into suborbital trajectories, allowing them to reach destinations across the globe in under an hour. Starlink satellite internet. SpaceX is building a massive constellation of satellites called Starlink to provide high-speed internet access to even the most remote areas of the globe. This project has already begun operation and is rapidly expanding its coverage. Beyond. Musk's long-term vision extends beyond Mars and the Moon. He has expressed interest in exploring other celestial bodies, such as Europa, a moon of Jupiter, and Enceladus, a moon of Saturn, which are believed to harbor subsurface oceans that could potentially support life. So what's going to happen with the Starliner and Boeing's relationship with NASA? Boeing still has existing contracts with NASA for crewed missions to the ISS, providing a chance to prove Starliner's capabilities and restore confidence in the program. Boeing has demonstrated a commitment to addressing the technical issues and improving Starliner's reliability. If they can successfully resolve these problems, Starliner could still play a role in future space missions. The growing demand for crew transportation to and from the ISS and other destinations creates opportunities for multiple providers, including Boeing. Boeing could potentially leverage Starliner's capabilities for other missions beyond the ISS, such as private space tourism or scientific research. Here are some possible scenarios for Boeing in the future. Boeing could invest in further development and testing to improve Starliner's reliability and compete with Crew Dragon. Starliner could end up playing a secondary role to Crew Dragon, primarily serving as a backup option for NASA or catering to niche markets. In a worst-case scenario, if Boeing cannot overcome the technical and financial challenges, the Starliner program could be cancelled. The future of Starliner hinges on Boeing's ability to address the technical issues, control costs, and regain NASA's trust. While the program faces significant challenges, it also has the potential to contribute to the future of human spaceflight if Boeing can learn from its mistakes and deliver on its promises. What do we get from all of this? It's true, space is hard. Rocket science is hard. And no matter how long you've been in the game, how many trophies line your shelves, you can't afford to rest on your laurels. Boeing, with all its history and accolades, fell prey to a mindset that prioritized the bottom line over groundbreaking advancements, shareholders over the ingenuity of its engineers. In the unforgiving realm of space exploration, that's a recipe for disaster. But there's a glimmer of hope amidst these setbacks. As we gaze towards the future of space travel, companies like SpaceX are demonstrating what's possible when innovation and risk-taking are championed. We're on the cusp of a new era in space exploration, one that could see humanity establishing a foothold on Mars, building lunar outposts, and venturing even further into the cosmos. To reach these ambitious goals, we need more than just engineering prowess. We need a resurgence of the bold, visionary spirit that propelled us to the moon in the first place. For Boeing, the path forward remains uncertain. Can they shake off the inertia of complacency and reignite the spark of innovation that once defined them? To survive this new space race, they'll need to rediscover their roots, prioritize ingenuity over profit margins, and remember the spirit that fueled their past triumphs. Otherwise, they risk becoming mere spectators as companies like SpaceX lead humanity to the final frontier. This isn't just about rockets and spaceships. It's about the human spirit, the drive to explore, the courage to push beyond the known. It's a reminder that even giants can stumble, but with the right mindset, they can rise again, reaching for the stars with renewed purpose and passion. What do you think of this video? Write your comments below and make sure to like and share. For more interesting videos, click on the next one right on your screen.